Mm-hmm.
Testing.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting is a meeting of the Warren City Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public meeting. There is time for public participation during this meeting as indicated in agenda items number 11A and 11B. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Cortino, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Flanagan?
Here.
Mr. Fowley?
Here.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Here.
Mrs. Patterson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Present. And my apologies, we called the meeting to order at 6 p.m. All right. There is no need for agenda item number 3. And we'll move to agenda item number 4, communications.
I just have a couple of communications this evening. First, we did receive word, I saw Ms. Barrow walk in, that we did receive our preschool allocation. I think it increased of a couple slots for that. 8 additional slots, again, $4,000 slot, that's another $32,000, which I think brings our total preschool allocation up to $886,000 or $868,000. Something pretty significant, that we've been working on is trying to get someone else to pay for our preschool students rather than us, and so we've done a pretty good job in keeping that going. So I wanted to, make the board aware of that. Second, the Recreation and Wellness Center pictures are on display here at Lincoln. We're going to keep that as a traveling road show. You're going to hear from Mr. Nicholson during his athletic report tonight about those also being on display for tomorrow night's basketball game, as well as the 3 sectional tournament games that we're going to be hosting, or I should say Mr. Nicholson will be hosting at Warren G. Harding High School. And speaking of the Recreation Wellness Center, came across a mail publication today in Valley Business Magazine and happened to see Phillips Mechanic Architect using one of our lovely pictures for their advertising. So obviously, it's with a few other very beautiful and amazing structures that they've been associated with. So kudos to Phillips Mechanic Architect and their work that they do for the Warren City Schools. Tonight on the board agenda under the superintendent's report, we have an update from Akron Children's Hospital. I want to let the board know that we're doing that at the mid-year point and at the end-year point because of the fabulous grant that we are a part of with Akron Children's and the change of services that's available for our students here in the Warren City Schools. And our second report is going to be the report out from the Lincoln Pre-K through 8 school. Obviously, we've all figured it out because we're all sitting here. So, I think we're going to have 2 great superintendent's reports this evening. So that concludes my communications for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. All right. Can I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Cortino, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion carries. Treasurer's report?
Just 2 things to let you know about tonight. First of all, our audit is complete and has been filed with the Federal Clearinghouse. It is now with the Auditor State's Office, and they'll review it for a few weeks before they release it. But happy to report there were no concerns or findings in the audit, and it was a more comprehensive audit with all the ESSER dollars that we had received. They had to audit that plus our additional federal programs that they rotate through each year.
Excellent.
So it all went well with that. And then I just wanted to let you know that we are planning a trip here in March to Chicago for a ratings trip to go and do a presentation in front of Moody's. So mid-March is looking to be the date that we'll go. So,
Excellent.
and that is it.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Cortino. Agenda item number 7, superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Allison Lands, our nurse practitioner from Akron Children's Hospital, for her presentation and update on our school-based healthcare centers across the district. Allison?
Thank you guys for having me tonight. It's nice to see you again. The last time we special ed teams, basically anytime that we said, can we do this, they say, yes, let's meet about it. And anytime they say, can you help us with us, we try to say, yes, let's meet about it. And just building those relationships with people in the school so that they're trusting and understanding of what our purpose is here and how we can help. And also they know the kids better than anybody else, so they know kids that are at higher risk or, might benefit from our services. And then, providing support back to our local healthcare providers. So our intention is never to, I think 4,600 students you guys have I can't be the pediatrician for all of them, the PCP, the nurse practitioner. So, and that's never the intent. So the intent is to connect them with services back, referring back to your pediatrician, follow up with your pediatrician for this. If you already have a pediatrician, you need our services, great. And then connecting with those local specialties to help kids get connected to where they need to be. So that's kind of the foundation of what our school-based health center has done. So this is just a brief overview. I won't, read through every word, but basically we can see your child for sick visits. We can do sports physicals. We can do well visits, which a well visit for a child who doesn't need a sports physical is just going over height, weight, vision, hearing, a full physical head to toe, and just making sure that there's no red flags, preventative care, just as we would get as adults. And so most of those services have been provided in person. There is opportunity to use telehealth for some of them with some different title care that we have. So for very simple things like pink eye or Airbnb, we've been able to utilize those services. But lots of times it's just going place to place of wherever we're needed. So these are kind of the numbers so far this year, and I didn't start full time until the end of October, so we had those services available on those days I weren't here, but it wasn't exactly the same as when I was here. So taking that into account, we've seen a total of 727 different student visits. 122 of those were well visits, which is the same wording for like a sports physical or something like that. 442 sick visits. Of those sick visits, I think we've had 4 or 5 direct admissions to the ER, meaning that the child got on the bus that day, came to school, and when we saw them, and not just the ER, to the hospital. So they went to the ER and then were admitted to the hospital. So this is sick kids who really needed to be seen, who for one reason or another, a situation changed or they didn't have the access, that we were able to provide that and get those children seen. We provided vaccines through flu clinics and also helped to decrease absences by providing the mandatory school vaccines in the school so that kids didn't have to be excluded for that. These are just a couple of different things that we've done with your administration and different employees. We did a crosswalk with administration looking at school policies through a health lens, and that's something that we plan on trying to do every year just to bring some different things up to date, help decrease absenteeism. We participated in some special education meetings. At the beginning of the year they said, hey, we're getting all these evaluations for IEPs, but then families don't understand what it means, and there seems to be a disconnect, and we feel like we're fighting against each other, and the family's confused in the middle. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me explain to you where we come from, as the outside, pediatric offices, and then they explained to me how their services differ from different other kinds of services outside of school, and then just came up with a common language that would be really helpful for families to understand that this is requesting an evaluation. It does not mean your child will get an IEP or needs one. This is the realistic time to expect to hear back, and just making sure that the communication that came from the healthcare providers was the same as what the school was trying to portray, and that we were all working as a team to serve the child. And so we sent that out to all the local pediatricians that work with Akron Children's, and touched base a few months later, and they said, oh, things have gotten so much better. So just small things like that can actually make a really big difference in parents not being frustrated and the school feeling supported and all of that. We've partnered with the liaisons in the school. You guys have so many amazing programs here, and we're not here to save the day or take away from them. We just want to be part of them. So we also have a community health worker who is part of our team. So something simple as when we send a script to the pharmacy, that script does not do any good if that parent does not have a car to pick that prescription up. So we can offer to families when we have a visit, do you have a way of getting that prescription? No, perfect. We'd like to step in, bridge that gap for you. Is it okay if we pick it up and bring it to your home for you? And so lots of times that decreases absenteeism as well, because if you have sore throat and you get diagnosed with strep, the mom can't get the antibiotic for 3 days, then you're not getting that child back to school any sooner unless you can provide all the services situation where there were probably 8 different people within the buildings on different levels involved in getting a child just to a well visit. And, where the preschool director, said, I'll keep the other kids, and this person said I could help with transportation, and our community health worker went to the appointment to make sure there was no gaps in them getting there and getting home, and we worked with the local pediatricians, with Jeannie, the district nurse, has been so helpful throughout this whole program, the nurses in the school, just everybody had a hand and a piece in it. So, our success is really absolute team success from, the medical assistants, the community health workers, the nurses in the schools, the administration supporting us, the principals, in their busy days when I say, hey, can I borrow you for a quick second? It's always a yes. And stepping in and, sharing that information to help the student have like the best outcome. So, we're excited to be here, and we also really appreciate and feel like we're so successful because of the support that we've gotten as well. In addition, we've provided some education tools for the school to kind of bring everybody up to date, make sure that they have the resources that they need for different things that are part of, the Ohio Department of Education standards. So we're excited to be part of that. So a couple just big wins that we've had this year. We've seen a handful of kids who have never, since leaving the hospital after birth, have never seen a medical provider. Ever, not one time, not an ER visit, not an urgent care visit, not a well visit. And so providing access to those kids who literally otherwise would not have it, it's just an honor to be able to serve those kids and take care of them. We had a blog story that went out to the public, so you'll probably all get access to it, and I can send the link to Mr. Gyro, so we can send it to you all, but there was a family, a single mom with multiple children in your school district who works a full-time job, is also getting cancer treatments, and through a chart review, we're able to identify a very serious life-changing diagnosis for her child that had been previously overlooked. And so, and then connected with all of the children in different ways, meeting all of their different needs. And so, this is a mom who's absolutely doing the best that she can, and there still can be a gap in services during those times. So it was really exciting to get to be part of her story. There's also been a couple of situations where a child was very, very medically fragile or had some gaps, and the school had said, we've tried to get this family help, but it's not, we're struggling with that for whatever reason. And so we were able to come in and kind of provide the medical side of it to elicit like a higher level of need for people to understand the severity of the situation and support the family in getting where they need to go. I know lots of times in education or in medicine it can be called non-compliance. In different words in education you might use for a family who just seems like they're not putting forth effort. But really what we've tried to do this year is look at it as what barriers are keeping you from doing those things, and then how can we help partner with you to take those barriers away. Because we know that they want their children to have the services they need, but sometimes your story doesn't look the same as the person next to you. And so really like in a completely non-judgmental way, coming alongside those families, building relationships with them where they trust us, and then saying, we want to partner with you, so how can we help you? We have a family who can't get transportation to all the specialties that they need to see that are pretty serious, and they're very forgetful. So we call before every single appointment, even if it's not our appointments, it's other people's appointments. We call before, do you have transportation? Let us make sure that's set up for you. Let us call you again in the morning, remind you what time it's getting there. So, just really supporting that, because at the end of the day, what we want to see is the child doing well. So anything that we can do to help that, we want to do. So it's been really an honor to be here and be part of your program, and it's been wildly successful. So I just, that's a big thanks to your administration, your African nurses that you already had in place, and you having a welcoming environment that is willing to have open conversations and not afraid to change. And so we really have been excited to be here and looking forward to the partnership moving forward. I guess the link is on here, so I'll have Mr. Shire send this out to you guys so that you guys can all access that. It's a really good story. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was least attentive, and I already sent it to him.
Okay.
So it's all sitting there. You guys
Yeah.
should receive it shortly if you haven't already.
Thank you so much.
Allison, I do want to just thank you for all the work you're doing for our kids. And, part of when we brought Akron Children's Hospital in years ago was that we wanted school-based healthcare services for our kids. And in our first and second meeting, they laughed at me. Janine, you were there. You all laughed at me when I said we wanted this kind of stuff for the students and the children in the city of Warren. And then, this is fully funded through a grant through the governor's office. And hopefully he stops interfering in education with health services and no further moving forward. But, through the governor's office is a 1-year grant. But I have been told that our work that we're doing in Warren is the model program that Akron is with a number of districts, and that this work should surely continue in the future if it's through one of Akron's foundations or other stuff. So I think this will continue. I'm pretty confident it's going to continue through some conversations I've had, and that there should not be a change in services for the children in the city of Warren. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
This next superintendent's report is the administrative team here at Lincoln. And I understand from my conversation earlier today and some other staff members presenting, so I'd like to turn it over to them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Shiro. One point I just wanted to bring up before we get started with the presentation, and I know they already left, but the partnership we have with Akron Children's is really monumental. There was a situation this year, without sharing too much information, there was a situation this year where we had a student come to school, and Allison really responded quickly, made sure that the child got the care that that child needed, forced the families into kind of making it happen, and honestly, it saved the life of that child. So it wasn't like, oh, this child's sick and needs care. Like this situation literally was that severe that it saved the life of the child. So without that partnership, who knows what would have happened, and thank God we have them in our schools. So I'm going to kick off our presentation here. As you can see, we do have the story behind the stars continued. So the board presentation at the beginning, well, it was mid-year, I guess, was that October when we shared the story behind the stars. We wanted to continue that with the story behind the stars here at Lincoln. So first up, I'm going to give some introductions of the admin team. I'm Josh Guthrie, the campus leader and 3-5 principal. Treva Pitlick is the PK2 principal. Alicia Williams, 6-8 principal. Melissa Eustick, supervisor of special education. And Nikki Littleton, our curriculum liaison. And I'm going to introduce Miss Erica Sampson and Mr. Chris Wilson here, as they'll be kicking this off with a little activity with you guys. So, yeah, we want to get a little outside the box. So if you guys want to just move up into these front seats so you get, if you want, see the presentation, and we have some iPads for you as support of teachers, of course. So first up is going to be Mr. Wilson speaking about walking in a third grader's shoes. So you guys are now third graders for a moment. And we have the technology provided that our students use every single day.
So what we are going to do this evening is we have created a Kahoot with some math and some ELA questions that were released by the state that are basically third grade questions. We know that the standards are built from PK all the way up. So the third grade test is not just a third grade test. It's a PK to 3 test at that point. So what we wanted to do is just give you a little taste, just let you share in what our children, the rigor of the standard that they have to perform at, the rigor of the standard that teachers have to be professionally developed so that they understand how to instruct the students on how to do that, and just to have a little bit of fun. This is a game type of program that we use in classrooms of a lot of different grade levels, almost from K to 12. But kids, once they start it, they love the Kahoot. So, go ahead.
So if you look up here, if anybody else wants to play along, here's your link. You type it in your web browser. And then for those of you who have the iPads, this is the game pin that you want to type in. And then you don't have to put your real name if you don't want to. I'm usually really hard to that way. So I'll give our people another minute to play. Like, at bare minimum, we should have 5 participants, no time. And we're starting with math, so be ready. Honestly, I think it's going to be easier than the All right. And staff, you can be in a thumbs up if your partner is logged in. If you want to join late, there's a code to join late too, if you got slow fingers. Normally there's fun music too, but I turned it off because it would play for like a half an hour. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start. So there is a time limit. The question's going to pop up. You will see part of the question, and then you'll see like 4 answers. There's colors and shapes. You just got to pick which one on your device based on the question that pops up. So if you missed the first one, don't freak out. It'll be all right. So here's our first one coming. There is a leaderboard though, so no pressure as you get your questions correct.
You get points for correct answer plus how quickly you answer correct.
So answers will pop up in a second. So you're going to pick red, blue, yellow, or green to match the problem.
Five seconds.
All right, Sarah's in. All right.
We had one wrong.
Only one wrong, that's fantastic. So if we look, this is the leaderboard. So number 1 teacher should be the first person, right? Because they're number 1. And it looks like Jill Selak is in second place. Well done, Ms. Selak. All right, so we'll jump to the next question. Again, these are 3rd grade questions. Our 3rd graders have to do this. They have to be able to read this and respond. Not sure to guess. All right, I'm gonna go, Brandy. She teaches 1st grade, so I'm very impressed. Kindergarten now, sorry. All right. Perfect, way to go. This is cool. All right, Randy's a great competitor. Last math one, I promise.
What shows me?
Here's our leaderboard. All right,
Oh,
comes your
with the
ELA.
win.
Good luck with this one, everybody. This is Erica's goal.
What rules should you
last chance, guys. This is it. All right, so you don't have to answer anything else. Here's our board. What about mom?
All moms are good. That's what I would do.
It's a J-E, not J-C.
All right, so there's like diagnostic stuff that we can pull up. We won't do that. So the questions that you had were literally questions that our third graders are going to see. I personally think the math is a little easier than the ELA.
But the real test, they have to read several long passages and answer. Most of the questions were very hard to get in for real.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fit on the screen. So when it comes to math for the third graders, these are some pictures. Our kids are, and most of those right now, we're on multiplication. Candy Church is doing the same thing. So you'll see students working with tiles. Down here in the corner, they're working on arrays. You see all those dots. It's kind of different than just memorizing your time tables, like when most of us were younger, although that is kind of part of what they have to do. So if you look up here, there's two math standards there. Interpreting products and quotients is just what are answers in multiplication division problems, but you also have to be able to tell like what they mean and what's the meaning behind them. And then down at the bottom, you can see our kids are working on writing and solving story problems, which is something that translates all the way up. The one advantage we do have in math is that the test is read aloud to them. So every kid has that accommodation of having the questions read aloud via the computer, whereas when Eric is up, they don't get any read aloud on the reading test because it's a reading test.
Right, so this is an example, the picture is an example of a page from a third grade Wonders student book, which is the curriculum that we have chosen for 3-5. And we know, again, that the standards are built. They don't just appear in third grade. It's what they've learned all the way from kindergarten up. And the test is a testament to the rigor of the standard. It's not just understanding characters, but it's being able to analyze and synthesize information, which are very high-level skills that we are asked students to do.
So the B question is an example. That's a pretty good question. I think great, especially when we're still like transitioning into reading for reading and understanding. And we see that in math too. So we go over that story problem stuff. And so again, math class used to be a lot of like here's tons of paperwork, do it. You'll see a lot more like hands-on drawing, kids justifying the answers as well as kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So. Again, the purpose is increasing the rigor, and that's built right into our state standards. So the kind of things we were asked to do as third graders is very different than what our third graders have to do now. You saw, like in the math question, you saw where it's like an expression or equation, and that math vocabulary is real and rigorous as it goes all the way down, even into the K1, 2 rooms. So if you get a chance to go through and you want to see stuff, then you can peek into a kindergarten classroom when it does word balls and sound balls. And obviously the problem solving and the strategies that we're using, we saw Tammy Church's kids with tiles and drawings and representations. They can put that under the document camera and explaining, even look at wrong answers and see what we learned from that wrong answer to go ahead and be able to fix it.
And then to work on the decoding and the vocabulary, because if it's one thing that we see our children struggle with, it's vocabulary. It's to get them reading is the goal, but get them to understand what they read is the major goal. So, So if you'd like to put your iPads down, or you wanted to say that we wanted to just
Whatever, if it's easier for you guys to watch the presentation, that's fine. I forgot to mention that Mr. Wilson is our building math coach, and Miss Sampson is our building literacy coach. So they're involved in many different areas of the educational day. Really, something I wanted to drive home with that little activity was we don't like to use the words learning loss. We don't like to use the words the pandemic or use the excuses for the gaps that were created with the pandemic, but we also know that they are there. So the standards haven't changed, and the way that we're assessed on the state test haven't changed, pre-pandemic to now. And we also know it's a reality that gaps have been created. So you can see it's pretty rigorous of what's expected of even a third grader. So there's high stakes in third grade for our kids. It's super stressful. They got to pass that test. There's a lot of different things on there, but our kids are producing, and we do have high expectations for them. Next, Miss Eustick's going to talk a little bit about our interventions. So we do focus a lot on having a solid core, but we also know that there are some gaps that are created, and not all of our interventions are for students that are struggling. Our interventions are for all students, meeting the kids where they are, enrichment, pushing them, and also kind of shrinking some of those gaps.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. So our interventions, we start with K-8 Pride Time. So Pride Time is 45 minutes every day, and our students, it goes from kindergarten through 8th grade, and our students work in small group on their targeted interventions. Now you're going to say, how do we target these interventions? How do we find out what they need? We do that through many different assessments. We're a very data-rich district, and we're lucky in that we assess 3 times a year with NWEA MAP in reading and in math, and we get that data to help us decide what those targets are going to be. But we also look at the critical areas of focus testing throughout the year, as well as formative and summative data that we do within the classrooms. So Pride Time, like I said, happens every day. Next, we have some pictures of the students in Pride Time. And some of it is on the computer, some of it is in small groups. So they kind of run it as stations in the classroom. So you'll have maybe 8 students or 10 students on the computers working with reading or with math, and then you also have some pulled up to the front working with the teacher. The next intervention we have is Edmentum, which is used during Pride Time. It's computer-based, and the nice thing about Edmentum is that it can be accessed from home as well as from school. So we tell the students, you can get on at home at any point, and how Edmentum works is it takes the data is collected from MAP in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring, and at those different points, then it generates what we call a learning pathway. And then those students work on their level, and it increases as their skills increase. We have Wilson Reading, which is systematic instruction of the rules of phonics, and it builds upon previous skills from, again, it's every day. So what the students learn from one day, they carry on to the next day and so forth. It's small group, and here's our reading teacher, our Wilson Reading teacher, Mrs. Stamp, who does a phenomenal job with the students. We have Really Great Reading, which again is a daily systematic instruction in phonics, phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency skills. It works on foundational skills. We have Countdown, Blast, HD Word. So it builds as the students start and go up from kindergarten on up. There's videos that go with each of the lessons. So it's very hands-on and interactive. This shows one of the kits that comes with the Blast kit, and they're really high-quality, well-made kits. Those are all magnetic tiled letters, and the students really seem to enjoy that type of a lesson because it's very hands-on. We just started something new for our kids in the upper grades. So this shows you some 6th graders here that are working on the Reading Rewards program. It's a research-based program, and it actually works with students reading longer passages. So it works on comprehension and also vocabulary, learning prefixes, suffixes to increase their knowledge of multisyllabic words. And lastly, we have our after-school intervention, which is running right now, and that's on Wednesdays and Thursdays. and we've targeted grades 2 through 5, and they're using the 95% program for reading, the Bridges intervention for math, and it runs from February 8th through March 30th.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. So as Melissa and Josh both mentioned, that these interventions are not only things that happen after school, within a school day, but also within our regular curriculum. And how that happens is it's all data-driven. So one of the items that we do twice a week are our teacher-based teams. This gives time for teachers to look at this data and talk about strategies that are working, not working, what are we going to use instead as a team. Sometimes that's by grade level, and sometimes it's by content. So they could sit in 5th through 8th grade, we have like a math team that sits together and talks about, well, this is what we did in 5th grade, how can we use that in 6th grade and build on it? So those happen twice a week. We also have our data conferences, which is a great opportunity for teachers to sit down and talk with administration, curriculum liaisons, special ed supervisors. What's nice about data conferences is now this is time, a little extension of the TBT, because TBT is talking as a grade level or by content. Now I can sit down and I could talk with the admins or curriculum liaison or specialists and say, what's this mean about my kids? What can I do differently with my group of students? And what strategies are working? What's student work? Let's look at your student work and talk about what's working or not working. This also is time for them to talk about PI, what's your plan? We have targeted students that we are working on and focusing on throughout. Every teacher has anywhere from 10 to 20 focused students. Along with all of our students, we want to push, but these students, we're really bringing back work every week and saying, what are we doing with those students? That happens, but also we want to sit down with our students. So this is an example, actually a teacher in this room shared it with me, that we want to sit down and have those conferences with students, because that's great that we're talking as a team, but we want to sit down with our students and say, okay, what is your plan? How can you better yourself? And if you notice on this particular one, what's your goals? How are you going to do that? And as a third grader, what's that look like for you? And they'll kind of regroup and talk about that. Are you meeting your goals? Why not? So again, as you heard, we talked about strategies, teacher teams, development. When do they have time? So teachers have many opportunities for professional development built in their day, whether it's during PD time, during the work week, they have one day. Also, they have their 6 hours that they have, and as you notice here, lots of time to kind of share ideas and strategies with keys to comprehension or keys to literacy.
Right, so all of that has been very academic based and based upon the standards that we're teaching students and interventions that we're providing as additional support. We also are very proud to be doing social emotional learning here in our building. And recently we were very fortunate to have Dr. Deidre Farmbry, who is the new expert in SEL and our consultant for the district. Some of you may remember Linda Lantieri, that was here with us before. And Dr. Farmbry has done this consulting work, very knowledgeable, has worked around the United States, and we had the opportunity here to do walkthroughs with the entire administrative team around the building, and then we got a chance to sit down with her after all of those walkthroughs and talk about what she observed. And we were so positive and so we felt so good about what she was sharing with us, because she talked immediately about the sense of calm, the sense of purpose that she felt here. She said the building felt very safe. She talked about the interactions that she observed between students and staff, and how there was affection, both verbally and physically, among them. She said it had a very nice feeling in the building. But then she went also on to talk about something that really impressed her was on the teacher daily schedules that are posted in their rooms. There's time set aside every day for SEL instruction, set aside specifically for that purpose. So it's teaching direct instruction for teachers teaching on the 5 competencies. It's opportunities to practice that, role model it, and of course then it also needs to bleed in and be integrated throughout the day. But she was very positive about the fact that we were setting aside, it was so important that we were setting aside time every single day to work on that. She also talked about all of the opportunities to build relationships within that and the relationships that she saw across the building. She remarked about the peace corners when she walked into rooms, which for years ago, that was not something we ever talked about. Peace corners are places in the classrooms that teachers build so that students can remove themselves when they're not feeling ready to be part of the classroom. They're angry, they're upset, they're frustrated. It's a place for them to go and calm themselves down. Part of direct instruction in SEL is teaching them what to do when they go to those peace corners. How do they calm themselves down? How do they self-manage their emotions? And how do they get themselves ready to go back to regular instruction? And she talked about how she saw that in all of the rooms that she visited, along with signage and resources, sensory materials for students to interact with and use when they are in those peace corners. So making them very purposeful parts of the classroom. She also talked about that all of these SEL pieces were evident around the building. So she felt a very strong SEL presence in our building. Thank you. Building on the other SEL pieces that we have, we also have a program here that we call Pride Pals. We wanted to build some partnerships and community around our building. This is a very big building, as you can imagine, with students and staff. And we had younger students that could benefit from a positive role model or an older student to kind of guide them. We also had older students that really wanted that opportunity to make a positive difference, to work with younger students, to talk to them about their own feelings that they've experienced at times. And so we created this Pride Pals program with K-3 students that teachers recommend, feeling like, okay, these are kiddos that maybe could use that positive older person to help guide them. And then some of the 7th and 8th grade students that we know are positive, or that maybe aren't involved in all the typical kinds of activities that you'll be seeing in a few minutes with Ms. Williams, but that are really great kiddos that have a lot to contribute. And so we built these relationships. They have a partner. The K-3 students have a 7th or 8th grade partner. They meet with them once a week, and they sit down and work with them. They might work on SEL skills like feelings or goal setting. They might also work in some sort of exploratory way with materials and use that as a time to talk and express feelings and to discuss what's going on with those kiddos, building relationships. And one of the things that we have found is that this has positive impact on both ends. The 7th and 8th grade students are benefiting from it because it gives them a sense of pride and accomplishment that they're helping their younger students, and it gives the younger students a sense of, okay, I have this other person in the building that has empathy for me, that has walked in my shoes, understood what it's like to feel like I'm feeling, and they really, really start to build relationships. And it's funny when you see them walk through the hall and they'll like fist bump each other or they'll wave to each other. And these 7th and 8th graders that are so cool, but when they're looking at their kindergarten or 1st grade, Pride Pal, hey, how you doing? It's really a cute experience. So building off of this, Ms. Williams is going to then talk to you about some other things that we have going on through the building.
So through our own training, we kind of know the importance of nurturing the whole child. And when we came back from winter break, we have no idea what the experience that all of our kids had during winter break. So we thought as a staff it was important to kind of revisit some things and provide some of that nurturing. So for the first few days, we took a look at pathways to graduation. We wanted our students to be focused on the work that you're doing here at Lincoln is very important to take you through high school and beyond. We also talked about respect agreements, and respect agreements were, what does respect mean to you? So our students talked to the teachers about how they felt respected. Our teachers talked to the students about how they felt respected. How do we respect our school? And then we put it all together, and there's a classroom respect agreement for each and every classroom. We did team building. The Tribune donated newspapers to us, and we just asked the students, we put the students in groups who wouldn't typically be together and just said, work together to create a fashion. And if you can tell, they took it very, very seriously. It went from like this little activity into the teachers and the students were asking, hey, can we have a fashion show? We ended up walking the runway all the way down the 6-8 hallway. I mean, my heart almost exploded out of my chest because they had such a good time. We also talked about bullying and harassment. This has been something that's come up. What does this look like? How do we prevent it? How do we report it? And then we evaluated relationships, which we thought was important, friendships. So each student was required to write an advertisement for what do you look for in a friend? And also goal setting and future planning. So here's some of our PBS work that we're doing with our students. We want to honor the positive things that our students are doing in our building each and every day. So first of all, students have an opportunity to win golden tickets from their teachers. It could be from anything from picking up a piece of litter on the ground to doing well on a test or just doing their best on a test. Every week that box is filled up. And it's not just any gimmies, it's what the students truly earned. At lunchtime, we pull tickets so kids can win prizes, and we have a good time with it. Go back. Some more incentives that we have for students was our staff versus students volleyball, our dodgeball competition. We had a door decorating competition for Christmas, and soon to be our student plan sneaker ball, which is our dance that is coming up on Friday. And here's our daily announcement team. We provide live announcements daily. Mr. Caesar leads that for our students. And if you look at the setup here, this is not your standard little ring light, microphone from your phone, from your cell phone. This is a professional setup, and they provide daily announcements to students. This team also, when we go to our next slide, is part of another club called our Student Voices that also has different segments on here based on what that student voice group said. So here's our middle school clubs, Power of the Pen, Prep Bowl, Challenge 24, Math Counts, Drama Club, and NJHS. I just want to take a moment as a proud principal and brag on them for a little bit because they have done a spectacular job so far this year. As far as Power of the Pen, for the first time in Warren City Schools middle school history, our 6-8 placed first overall at the Power of the Pen competition, and all 6 of our, give them a round of applause. And all 6 of our writers will advance to the regionals. As far as Prep Bowl, we placed 7th out of 19 area schools. Our Challenge 24, we had 3 students placed in the semifinals. And for our Math Counts, we had 4 students who won the Math Bowl after multiple overtimes at YSU. And they also placed 4th overall in the team part of the competition. So we are very proud of our students. Our students are working very hard. And I also want to thank the advisors who take their time out to make this happen.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. So we went around and asked a lot of our students, what do you love about Lincoln? The next couple slides are some things that they brought up and some things that staff members talked about. So obviously the staff members talked about how they love the PK8 students. So there's a lot of cool things happening here, but really at the core, we have caring adults that really care about the success and well-being of our students. Learning and playing with our friends. So I think that school bus picture is like one of the coolest. As they're pulling out, they're waving to us and just showing love. Our caring staff. So here's a couple pictures. I don't know if the teacher's in here. I don't want to call her out anyway, but I want to draw attention to the picture on the right. So that's not a staged picture. That was a picture that was taken in the moment. So that student was upset, sad, not sure the whole story, but teacher gave the hug and someone caught that picture. So those happen a million times in a day here. So some of our partnerships, our partnerships are so important, and I think Warren City Schools in general has done a really good job of creating these partnerships and making sure the relationships are there for the future. So it's huge that we have liaisons in the building that are working not only to improve attendance and different things like that, but even bridging the resources that we do have with these other partnerships. We have Valley Counseling in the building. Akron Children's Hospital, nurses, practitioners, social workers. We have a partnership with the SMARTS program, which is going amazingly this year. We have a partnership with the church next door, Second Harvest Food Bank, Trumbull County United Way, Butler Museum of Art, and of course all of our wonderful donors that seem to just be so generous and donate to pretty much anything that we need here at the building. So that's it for the slides. I'm going to go ahead and show a quick 2-minute closing of our students saying what they love about Lincoln. Tell us what you love about Lincoln.
What I love about Lincoln is that you don't need to keep quiet. You can always tell a trusted adult and they'll help you.
What I love about Lincoln is how positive the students and the teachers are. What I love about Lincoln is like the teachers could like help you out with like life situations like what's going on around, and like they're like kind and they don't like judge you based on what's happening.
And what do you love about Lincoln?
I love Lincoln because my teacher lets me learn, and because she let us do centers, and she let us do what we do.
All right, Honor, what do you love about Lincoln?
The thing I love about Lincoln is about that when the day I first walked in here, everybody was really friendly to me, and everybody's nice, and my principal is a very nice guy. And my favorite thing about Lincoln is that my teachers help me when I have problems with my work.
All right, Owen, so what do you love about Lincoln?
My friends, my teacher, and my classroom.
All right, Charles, what do you love about Lincoln?
My friends, my teacher, and recess.
All right.
And I love being stupid.
All right, Kennedy, what do you love about Lincoln?
My mom and dad named my little brother after the school, and I love my teachers and my friends are here. I like Lincoln because my teachers help me learn, and I can learn new things every single day.
All right, you old 8th graders, tell me what you love about Lincoln.
I love the environment and the teachers make me feel like I'm at home.
I like the activities we get and like the PBIS awards.
And I like how all the teachers and staff make us feel safe here and coming to see my friends every day.
All right, thank you, guys. The board members want to resume their usual seats. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Walker. Do you have any questions or comments for the admin team here at Lincoln?
Does anyone have any comments or questions? I know, I'm really appreciative, one of my children has already gone through Lincoln from K through 8, and then another one is here now, so I know a lot of you, I've seen a lot of you, and we just really appreciate the time, effort, and energy that you all put into educating and caring for the children of our community. So we definitely, it shows in your work, shows in the presentations, even though I did not win on the Kahoot thing, whatever. Won't judge anybody, but no. Loser. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Shiro. Thank you, Mr. Guthrie, and the entire staff and team here at Lincoln. We do appreciate it and appreciate you. All right. Agenda item number 8, committee reports. Athletics? There he goes.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
First thing I want to start off with tonight is great presentation, Lincoln. I love the activity. Esports. Originally, we had about 150 students sign up for that were interested in our esports. We ended up having 70 students try out for the team. The teachers, advisors kept about 50 students. They're going to be meeting this week, going over some guidelines and criteria to be a part of the team. We're looking at scrimmaging among one another in the near future, and also reach out to other schools that are in the pilot stage of the program, such as us, to get the scrimmages against other schools too. As you know, the OHSA is collaborating with Ohio Esports as a sponsorship of their state tournament, and I truly believe the OHSA, I said this in a previous meeting, is going to try to get involved in this. The number of schools that have teams, the number of kids participating, this is a hot topic, and I'm glad that, we dedicated the monies to build the esports center, and we're off and rolling. And I think once other schools in the area see what's going on with our program, I think they're going to join in too. So thank you for everything that the board has done to help get this program up and running. Boys basketball team are hosting a first round sectional game tomorrow night. They had a great season. Started off a little slow, ended up 15-7 on the season under the direction of Keelan Franklin. Just a reminder, tickets are only available on ohsaa.org/tickets. That's on the athletic website. The state controls everything regarding this tournament. D3. Next week, I host the D3 every year. And what is D3? It's the smaller schools. And it used to be the local teams, and the Northeast District Board recently decided to create these super districts. So now we're seeing teams from Cleveland Heights, Lutheran East, Beechwood, Conneaut. We're seeing teams throughout Northeast Ohio now getting the opportunity to come to our school, and we're going to, showcase our beautiful campus and facilities. And as Mr. Shiro said earlier tonight, we're going to put the pictures of the Wellness Center out in our lobby as they enter to see what the end result's going to be. Right now they walk by the fence with the windscreen and they see some things, but this is a great opportunity to showcase our facilities. I can't tell you how many people, from Poland, Canfield, South Range, teams like that have never been into our building. When they walk out, they get more compliments from them. And, the janitorial staff has done a great job on that building throughout the years, and it's a very proud place to be at. Braylon Schuler, we had a bowler, we had a bowler qualify as an individual at last week's sectionals. His name's Braylon Schuler. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. Really great bowler, great baseball catcher. He qualified as an individual, and he'll be participating in the districts this weekend as an individual in Cuyahoga Falls at Stonehenge Lane. So good luck to Braylon this weekend. And let's see, I had one more note. Middle school students, I don't know if you heard recently, made a decision recently with some of our middle school students at basketball games, high school games, having some troubles with the large number of kids showing up and kind of, not being there to watch the game. They were, wanting to be out in the halls and TikToking, and, the administrators that tried to talk to them and do some things weren't having very much success. So made a decision recently, such as we've done in football in the past, to put a message out to the middle school principals and let them know that, you're going to have an adult attend the game with you in order to be there at the game. It really went well, I hate to do these things, but, when our fans that are there to watch basketball can't enjoy the game because of things that may be going on throughout the game that don't need to be happening, we had to stand up and send a message. Mr. Shiro did send a letter out on December 29th this year. It talked about, some of the concerns that we've seen with the behaviors in the school at the start of the school year. Mr. Shiro sent a letter out on December 29th, and I've also directed the address to address inappropriate student behavior in order to advance student success for those students working to maximize their educational opportunity and/or experience. And I look at an athletic event as an experience that if you want to be there and be a part of cheering for our kids, doing the right thing, and enjoying the game, we want you there. But it's not fair to some of the fans that are getting obstructed and seeing other things going on that, we made the call, and just to let you know that this is some proactive things that we're doing to address student behaviors at athletic events. So appreciate your support and backing me with this decision. We have an athletic council on Thursday, and I basically kind of went over everything we needed to go over. Julian's smiling. So if you're okay with that, I'm requesting that we cancel Thursday's meeting.
I believe that's.
Permission granted. John's laughing. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. The meeting on Thursday is officially canceled at this point. I have a doctor's appointment, so I won't be there as well. So thank you for considering canceling it. And at the March meeting, we are going to have a couple guests that are invited in. Brandon Giovanni would like to come in and talk about the future of his work. I had a meeting with Brandon a few weeks ago, and I told him he could come to Athletic Council in March and have that discussion with the entire Athletic Council, and we could determine where we're moving forward with that. He does a lot of the pregame and the game hype for football season, and so Brandon will be a guest invited to the March meeting, as well as Frankie Caputo, who will be talking about the Lady Raider basketball program. He asked to meet with us, and so we put him on the agenda as well. So we will have a couple of guests joining us for that meeting in the March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shiro and Mr. Nicholson. Finance advisory? Is there any report?
No.
No? And board policies and guidelines, Ms. Patterson, Mr. Flanagan?
No report.
Okay. Legislative liaisons, Mr. Fowley, Ms. Lampiros?
Yeah. I want to say this correctly.
Yeah.
The governor has proposed a budget. There are many things relating to education in it. They're going to be changed. Our House of Representatives is not acting quickly. That's as polite as I can be. The Speaker has been elected by a combination of both Republicans and Democrats. And in Alaska, they're very adept at doing this. Ohio, it's the first time around, and things are moving slowly. So Mrs. Lamperos and I read a lot, and we talk to people, and there's very little to report because there's not a lot happening.
But it will start moving very quickly.
Yes.
When it starts moving, it's going to move very quickly. All of you know that they have had this, just plan to decimate public education, PK-12. It's been going on for a long time, and it is now moving to public higher education. So, in a nice way, we need to wake up. We really need to pay attention to what's going on, and contact your legislators and talk to your friends. Be very vocal about it. But things are going to move quickly when they start moving.
Do I have a chance to be vocal for a minute about it?
Sure.
Yes. The green light.
Yeah.
So even the Trumbull County Superintendents for the last year or so has been trying to meet with State Senator Sandra O'Brien, who now represents our areas in Trumbull County, but she won't show up for a meeting.
Yes.
Mike Loychek won't return phone calls, email. We can't even meet
Yes.
with the area representative legislators that have adverse opinions on public education. So I really do encourage you guys to put any information and any reasonable, responsible, knowledgeable facts out there. We do have a superintendent's meeting, I believe, on Friday, where it's a legislative meeting and the only individual that is coming is Nick Santucci. And everyone else has declined for as long as they've been in office. They don't want to hear, because their opinions are oftentimes in opposition of ours, they won't even come in the room and have the professional dialogue and conversation. So, and when you look at the things that are being proposed legislatively, between the biennium budget and otherwise for the state, the backpack bill is reality. It's going to hit in some format. And the first thing was the gift that they were not going to take the voucher dollars out of our local share. Well, that was just the first step in the dance. The second step is when they're going to assume it out of the state budget. In Governor DeWine's budget with his mathematical assumptions, he's assuming that in his formula, only 25% of families that are in voucher eligible and in non-public schools will take advantage of it. Why would the 75% not?
That's right.
Why would they not take $5,500 to pay for their child's tuition? I mean, so that assumption is going to be well short, and then it's going to have to come out of somewhere else. So the financing on these plans are not anywhere near reality. They're looking at proposing a 10% rollback on property taxes. Well, that's just going to reduce on our end, and it's just going to continue, where the funding source is coming from. And as Mr. Fowley said, it's very slow. And I guess it's a good part of it slow is there's a lot of things that just do not, there's no way to do the math. Chris Wilson could not do the math on this one because the math does not equal a real number. And those are some of the things that need attention from all of us. I have a legislative update every week or every 2 weeks, and I shared that with Mr. Fowley and Mrs. Lampero, some of the things that have been proposed legislatively. And again, it gets proposed and then it gets kicked around, and then somehow there's an end game to it. So we're just getting the proposed worst case scenarios with some things, but it's just the first step, because right now the power shift has occurred. I fully believe that the governor's office is going to take over the Ohio Department of Education, which is only then going to issue licensing. Then after that, your curriculum is going to be more dictated from the governor's office or the chancellor, who the governor may appoint. I've already been told that we may be given lists for which we would choose our curriculum. Well, if it's different than what we're doing now, that's a little bit of an expense. And potentially we've heard the mandate of teaching the science of reading to all students, which I can't say is a good or bad thing, but I'm not far enough along in knowing where that road is going. But I would say that anytime legislators from Columbus are making educational decisions is probably a really terrible idea. That's just my position.
House Bill 70.
Yeah, that's just my position, and again, you guys are talking about it. I would encourage everyone here who has a professional educator's license, all of us, to just spend 5 minutes every day following it.
Not just those who have a professional educator's license, those who live in Ohio and have investment in the public schools in Ohio. Just to piggyback off what Mr. Shiro says, this is not something that just affects Warren City schools. This is not something that just affects inner city schools. This is not something that just affects underprivileged schools. I received a letter, and I'm sure every board member on here received a letter from a consortium of board members from throughout the county. Mr. Shiro just said there are superintendents meeting from our entire county, and our representatives that we voted in will not meet with them. If we were that blatant, those of us on this board, with the disregard for the people that voted for us, our constituents, we would not be here.
That would be like us not showing up tonight.
Yes. So, like you said, the math doesn't work out. They're removing money from a public school funding plan that has already been deemed to be illegal, and they're taking money from it. So not only will it affect your schools, but if anybody else is listening, it will affect your housing values. It's going to affect the way people want to come into your state because, oh, Ohio has great schools or not. That will change dramatically, not to scare anyone, but to scare everyone. So please pay attention, please ma'am, please sir, and govern yourselves accordingly. That was a mouthful. Now, TCTC Board Representative, Ms. Patterson, do you have a report?
Yes, I do have a report. At our last board meeting with TCTC, what they reported on is that they have already begun their 23-24 enrollment period. And as of February 9th, which was our last meeting, they had a total of 779 applications. They said that that is far more than what they normally, these numbers normally show up in August, and this is what is going on in February. Out of the 24 programs that they offer, 19 of the 24 have been filled to capacity already. As of right now, Warren G. Harding, we have 86 students in that, I believe it's the 10 through 12 group. There is what they call an early innovators group, which are ninth graders, and they had 151 applications in a 24-hour deadline period, and they only accept 50. Yeah. So, and they just don't go by first come, first serve. There is a criteria to it, but 151 eighth grade students were applying across the county. This is across the county because it's TCTC, but 50 of them will now be in the have been selected to be a part of the Early Innovators program, and it started last year, and 40 of the 50 who started last year will now be in the 10th grade. They are continuing. So they are choosing, a lot of our students are choosing to go Career Center way. So kudos to them. That's my report.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Agenda item number 9, is there any old business? If not, agenda item number 10, any new business?
Bless you.
Okay. And 11A, public participation specifically for identified agenda items only. Do we have anyone, Mr. Shiro?
No one signed up.
Thank you for that. All right. Page 3, number 1, treasurer's recommendations. Mr. Fowley?
Treasurer's recommendations, minutes. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the January 2023 board minutes be approved as submitted.
Second?
Ms. Cortino, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion, are there any questions? I'm sorry, I should have did that first. And the motion carries. Agenda item number 2, page 4, monthly financial statement. Mr. Flanagan.
Monthly financial statement. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the January 2023 financial statement and short-term investments made by the treasurer during January 2023, Exhibit A, pages 34 through 35, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? If not, Ms. Cortino?
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 3, page 6, revised appropriations budgets. Ms. Lamperos.
It is recommended the resolution listed below for revised appropriation budgets A through E be approved as submitted.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion or discussion? If not, Ms. Cortino? please
Mrs.
go.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 4, page 8, Ms. Patterson.
Tax rates. It is recommended the resolution listed below for tax rates for calendar year 2023 be approved as submitted.
Second?
Is there any questions on or discussion on the item? If not, Ms. Cortino, please call the roll.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 9, agenda item, page 9. No, agenda item number 1. Mr. Flanagan.
Agreements, contracts, and/or leases. It is recommended the resolution listed below entering into agreements, contracts, and/or leases A through E be approved as submitted.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Was there any questions, comment, or discussion on this item? If not, Ms. Cortino, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Abstain.
And Mr. Walker?
Abstain.
Mr. Walker, may I speak briefly?
Yes.
2 abstentions. We attended the Port Authority meeting last Wednesday. They were allowed to participate remotely and to vote remotely. School boards have been forbidden to do that. If I were ill tonight, this motion would not have passed. Okay? Once again, we are under attack. That's just plain stupid. The Port Authority can spend $40 million remotely, and we must be at the meeting in order to do business. It's absurd. It's Ohio. That's my rant for tonight.
I concur.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Agenda item number 2. Wait, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is, okay. Agenda item number 2 on page 11. Mr. Fowley, please continue.
The good one. Donating personal property to an eligible nonprofit organization located within the state of Ohio that is exempt from federal income taxation per 26 U.S.C. 501A and C3. It is recommended the resolution listed below to donate personal property be approved as submitted.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion on the item?
Yeah, is anybody going to take this, Mr. Shiro?
Yes.
Okay.
The local Boy Scout troop, so the equipment will be going down to Camp Standoff.
And for those of you who don't have an agenda, these are archery targets, bows, and arrows.
Probably from when I was in school, but yes.
I was going to say, the last time I saw those was at the old Herding High School. Yes. No, they were inside. They were inside. They were using them for gym class.
But we still had the bullseyes
Like
on the
circa
barn.
2005, 2006.
There are probably a couple of those
They've been at
spare,
the warehouse that long?
a couple of these spare
I
arrows
encourage
probably
you
on the
to
reserve
approve the
program.
resolution.
Well, we are.
I will say I chuckled when I read this one and saw the list of what it was, so thank God you don't use it with my son. Anyway. Will you please call the roll, Ms. Cortino?
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, before someone loses an eye. Agenda item number 3, page 12. Oh, sorry, got to tell who. Ms. Lamperos.
Ohio Department of Education certification for Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principal Evaluation System. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the Ohio Department of Education certification for credentialed Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principals Evaluation Evaluators be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? If not, Ms. Cortino?
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
And Mr. Walker?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 4, page 13. Ms. Patterson.
Warren City Schools Local Professional Development Committee meetings. It is recommended the resolution listed below, changing and establishing meetings for the Warren City Schools Local Professional Development Committee for the 22-23 school year be approved as submitted.
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? If not, Ms. Cortino?
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Fowley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 5, page 14. Mr. Flanagan.
Field trip. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding field trip A through C be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? If not, it's good to see our extracurriculars going on field trips, and our students going on field trips and being able to experience life again. I don't know, what is it, endemic now? During this endemic. All right. Ms. Cortino, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Fowley.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 6, page 16. Mr. Fowley.
Tuition reimbursement. It is recommended the resolution listed below for tuition reimbursement be approved as submitted.
Second.
Ms. Cortina? I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Cortina, call the roll.
Mr. Fowley.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries, and congratulations to those who got that. Agenda item number 7, page 17, acceptance of gifts. Ms. Lamperos.
It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding acceptance of gifts be approved as submitted. And our benefactors, we have Nova Coffee, which made a donation to, just for Warren City Schools in general, estimated value $150. St. Joseph Warren Hospital for Jefferson PK-8 School, a value of $500. St. Mark's Church for Jefferson PK-8 School, estimated value $350. And Shaker Painting, Willard PK-8 School, a value of $560.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Just thank you.
Thank you.
As always, we thank our community benefactors for being a part of our, all of our students' experience and helping them to achieve what they achieve. Ms. Cortino?
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Fowley.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 18, number 8, excuse me, page 18, and ending at page number 31. Thank you. Mrs. Patterson?
Personnel recommendations. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding personnel items A through L be approved as submitted.
Second.
Has been approved. It has been a motion in the second. Any questions or discussion? We want to thank Ms. Judith Babick for her years of service as she retires. And I believe we didn't have any other retirement that I missed, did we?
Nope.
Okay. Ms. Cortino, if you could, please call the roll.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Fowley.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries. Okay. Agenda item number 11B, public participation. Is there anything? All right, thank you, Mr. Shiro. Since there is no need for executive session, can we get a motion for adjournment?
Still moved.
Second.
Time is 7:26. Ms. Cortino?
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes.
Mr. Fowley.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you all for your time this evening.